All About Writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 16, part 3 on our series on writing life. I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning, best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter.
And I'm Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning, best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher. And today, when we're talking about writing life, we are going to be talking about creating a schedule that fits into your life so that you can actually write. And Ben and I, talk a lot about, when we each have time to write our books or whatever we're co-working on and things like that. And I want to kind of broach the subject that creating a schedule for your writing is not what everybody thinks of when they say, oh, I need to create a writing schedule. That means I need to get up at 4 a.m. every day and I have to bang out 5,000 words a day in order to have it count as having a writing schedule in my life. And I think that in today's society, we get so caught up with schedules and calendars, and what can even create kind of roadblocks for a writing is that we put it on our to-do list. And I would love to ask you, Ben, you work a lot. You don't just sit here on podcasts. You are dealing with ghostwriting, you're dealing with writing books, and you're dealing with working, with the military and a myriad other things. And how do you, if I were to say to you, what's your writing schedule? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, it is tough, and there has to be some flexibility. I got to say that right away. I know we say about schedules, got to be strict to your schedule. Yes, but you also have to recognize that life happens, and sometimes you just aren't going to be able to write when you wanted to write. But it doesn't mean you can't get the writing done that you wanted to get done. So the way I approach it is for a week. What I do is I set myself a goal for how many words I want to write this week. And for me, what I aim for generally is 5,000 words. It's 1,000 words a day. If I write 5 days a week, I can get 1,000 words a day done, which really isn't that much. I know. Everyone works at their own pace, but once you sort of get into the rhythm, 1,000 words take you maybe an hour, maybe even less, depending if the muse is really guiding you that day. And so ideally, I have a time that I'll write every day. These days it's in the evening, right after dinner. I'm doing work stuff during the day, come home, have a bit of time with the family, have dinner, and then I've got some time after that. It's wonderful, by the way, because my eldest is old enough to drive now, which means he can drive him and his brother to soccer practices.
So just dig it in. Happy. I'm years away. Go ahead.
Yeah, you'll be there one day, dear. But that's what works for me right now. There have been other times, those glorious days a few years back when I was doing nothing but writing. Then it would be the morning. I'd get up first thing in the morning and I would have my coffee and breakfast, see the family out the door, sit down, and I would write all morning. But that, I realize, is a luxury most people don't have. Like if you are a professional writer, you do whatever you want. But if you are a busy writer who is trying to fit writing into your life, then finding that little time in the day that you think you can consistently grab is the key. And if you can't find a consistent time, then try and get a consistent amount of work done. Like my example, 1,000 words a day. Just get 1,000 words downrange. I've accomplished it for the day.
I wonder if, we're saying, writing schedule, and maybe it's almost a routine, right? So it's not necessarily like a specific time in your day or in your calendar that you do it. It's part of whatever routine makes the most sense
Yeah.
based on your life, right? So, I don't have a driving kid yet. I still have 3 kids that I have to run in 18 directions every night on the weekdays, and sometimes even on weekends, or I'm gone all weekend camping with the scouts, right?
Hmm.
And so maybe on Monday, I can write in the morning, but then I've got to go to the copper shop all day Tuesday. So I can't get anything done till 9 o'clock at night when I'm done running kids to and from things. But if I tell myself, like, my routine is in my time of life, I write 500 words this day, 500 words that day, 500 or 1,000 or whatever my number is, right? So it's kind of a mishmash. A schedule is what works for your calendar week, day, month, and also what can you realistically get out, because I do think, within that schedule, I mean, you and I are both relatively fast writers, but not
Hmm.
everybody can write as fast as us. And I wonder if, a schedule slash routine, um, does it make sense to put a, a number of words or pages to that? Or is it just enough to say, I've set aside X number of days, hours per week or whatever, to sit down at my computer and even attempt to write, or,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
with that may come 5 words or 1,000 words or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's a
Or
fair point. Yeah, sometimes the muse just isn't there, and I don't want anyone to feel bad if they can't hit their target. Like this, the whole purpose of creating this writing schedule is not to put guilt and shame on authors. You know, so
just
I hear what
type
you're
A
saying.
authors. I get you. It's fine. I'll be over here drinking.
So, the whole thing is to set a goal and to aim for it. And sometimes you won't quite hit it, but if you've tried, you will have got some words on the page. And maybe you wanted to write 1,000 words, but you only wrote 800. That's still great. You got 800 words down. That's awesome, and it will continue to add up. The key, I think, is consistency. If you say you're going to write 5 days a week, that it may be a different time every day, but at least try. And you will be amazed at how fast those words will add up. Like, let's say you mentioned, Sarah, 500 words a day. 500 words a day. It's really not that much. But if you do that every day for a month, you've got 15,000 words written. You're what, a quarter of the way through your book in 1 month, right? So it's the dedication to making time, and that's the key. I think it's not finding the time, because we're all busy. We all got stuff to do. Not finding the time, it's making the time. If you want to be a writer, you have to prioritize it, which means you have to put it above some other things. And obviously, you shouldn't put it above certain things. Family comes first, right? Your job, the thing that pays your rent, that comes first. But um, you know, maybe we're watching TV or playing computer games or watching YouTube. Not us, of course. We're totally a high priority, but
Yeah,
but but
no,
watching.
no, I don't scroll on social media at all.
Yeah, right, right. So that might be able to take a second seat to the writing. And I think that's the key, is to put the writing first and say, okay, as soon as I've got time, discretionary time where I can choose what I do with this time, I'm going to do the writing first, and then I'll do the other things. And that simple act alone, that simple choice of doing the writing first, will make sure it gets done. And you will be amazed at how fast you can write a book.
And I think too, it's to add on to what you're saying, is it's not even just, finding the time, putting together the schedule, the routine, but it's creating an environment where you may put words on the page, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
without the expectation of, I must write 500, 1,000, 200, whatever number of words, but I'm being consistent with sitting down and creating the environment where this may even happen, right?
Hmm.
Like maybe you spend that time researching. if you're like me and you're a historical fiction writer, right? Or maybe you spend that time just rereading what you've already written and you're editing.
Mhm.
But all of that is time spent on the craft that is burning inside of you, and it's not time wasted. And I think that's the other side of creating a schedule or finding time in your routine for writing, is that especially in this day and age, it's considered like, at least I feel this way, a luxury to have time to write
Yeah.
unless it is your full-time job. But even if it's your full-time job, you're probably writing for a magazine, or you're you're not writing, there's such a tiny fraction of people who are writing novels for their full-time job where it pays the bills, and and they can run a business from it. Um, that the reality is that most of us are going to be doing this as a passion project or on the side, or as one of our many it's one of my many
Mhm.
full-time jobs to be a writer. And
Mhm.
and so I do have to dedicate time to doing that because it is my job. But it's um I think that we need to just be kind of putting it out there, like it's not shameful to find time to do something and to be productive in a way that's just like with the end goal in mind of creating this product.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's not shameful at all. I think that I think
Maybe I'm speaking to my own bias. Like I still feel like I'm playing hooky sometimes when I get to like sit down and write for an hour or five on end. It just
oh yeah,
feels so
yeah.
luxurious.
Mm,
And with that luxuriousness comes this idea that like I better be productive within this time I've allotted myself to do this. And
yeah.
um and I think our culture is so frenetic now that there is that expectation on us that we need to be productive within those time frames. And then
Yeah.
that can create a lot of issues too.
Yeah, I agree. And just to reiterate my point, but I don't want anyone to feel guilty if they don't accomplish what they set out to accomplish in their time, or feel guilty like they're sneaking away from other things to do this guilty pleasure of writing. Not at all. No, writing is what it brings us joy. It fuels us. Any of us who are inspired to write, it's a compulsion. We have to do it. And even when it's agonizing, it's still amazing. So definitely enjoy that, embrace it, revel in it. Um, and yeah, like you said, Sarah, sometimes if you got your writing time and you just for whatever reason you can't write, you're stuck on the scene, or you're just not you're still trying to shake off the effects of the day, and for whatever reason the writing isn't coming. There's always other things you can do, like research or editing. And we're all wired differently. And so, anyone listening to this, I want you to think that just because me and Sarah say that this is easy doesn't mean it's going to be easy for you. Like, I'm sorry for me saying 1,000 words is easy to write. Well, for some people, it's going to be really hard. Um, and we're all different. Like editing, for example. When I get to the editing stage, that is the easiest thing for me. Like, that's like, oh, whew, I'm just going to relax now and do some editing. Some people, editing is the hardest part of the whole process. They just agonize over the editing, and I feel bad for them. For me, it's super easy. For me, the hard part is the writing, is the creation. Is I'm creating something that's never existed before. I'm bringing it into being. That's hard. But other people, woo, just churning out words on the page. So the research. Some people love the research. Some people can get lost in the research, spend months on the research.
That's
Yeah.
me. Yes.
Some of us write sci-fi because we don't want to do research.
Uh-huh.
I don't care. Let's make it up. Let's make it up. Make it my own. So the point is we're all different, and we will all find some things easier than others. But everything that you can do, the writing, the editing, the research, they're all moving your project forward. And don't feel guilty if one day you just don't feel like writing. You're just going to do some fun research instead, because the fun research is helping you. It's got your brain working. Your subconscious is churning away. Your creativity is flowing, and you will come up with stuff that will come out in your writing later on when you get back to it. But again, the key is to make the time. And I think that's really like anything else with scheduling in our modern world. Don't find the time, make the time, because there's always something else that can fill the time for you if you don't choose writing.
And I think that's a kind of a kind of a place to kind of put our asterisk and finish this off too is you do it for yourself as self-care in a way.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
also in a society where that's become kind of the next buzz that, self-care. Well, if you want to write a book or you love writing or and stuff, and even if you're in the kind of that twilight struggling stage of your process, finding that time, making that time to give yourself that gift of, I'm going to do something that is singularly mine, that brings me happiness or is something I want to do for me. Even heck, even if it's just like researching agents to pitch to someday and you're just
Yep.
working on something related to your book, right? It
Yep.
is for you, and it's fulfilling. And
Mhm.
I think that that's something, creating a schedule is not only to be productive, but it's also to give yourself a space to be self-loving. And
Mhm.
I think if we kind of reframe the idea of like schedules and routines to create a book is also schedules and routines to give yourself almost a meditative, me time in whatever shape that comes. But it's also on, as an aside, it is productive towards an end goal. Like it's such a really positive experience you can gift yourself that we shouldn't be afraid to set that time aside.
Absolutely. Yep. And we are all individuals. There's no magic spell here. There's no silver bullet to make writing easy. Each one of us has to find our own way. But I think, Sarah, you're absolutely right. Uh, Writing is something that we love doing, and so it's a reward. It's something we should look forward to. It's something we should make time for, and all of us will be better people for it, and we'll be happier, and we'll write great books.
Exactly.
So, well, I think on that, that's our show today, everyone. Don't
It's a
forget to
positive note. It's a definite good place to stop. We have to stop there.
absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, and everyone who's listening, please, if you have any questions, fire them off to us in the comments or reach out to us. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our chats. Feel free to leave a review. It really does help us a lot. And if any of you are looking for help with any aspect of your writing, we always recommend our friends at Cascadia Author Services. You can find them at cascadiaauthorservices.com. They're great folks. They will help you out, get you pointed in the right direction. And if you're scooting around on the internet, you can find Sara at saradahman.com and on Instagram.
And don't forget, you can find Ben at bennettrcoles.com or else search for him on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for joining us today. Please do reach out if there's any topics you'd love us to cover. We so enjoy reading your comments on all of the different interfaces and interacting with you. And, please raise your hand and say, can you talk about X or Y or Z? We would love that. But otherwise, we will see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.